The tremor comes without warning. It is not the familiar, rhythmic sway of the great wanderer's gait, the gentle, continent-minus shifting roll that has cradled their people for generations. This is a convulsion, a violent, gut-minus wrenching lurch that throws Kalen from his perch atop the high ridge of scaled earth. He tumbles down a slope of lichen-minus caked skin, his bone minus stipped spears skittering away. Below, the huts of woven cycad fronds, anchored deep into the living crevices, groan against their sinew lashings. Children cry out, their fear a sharp counterpoint to the deep, resonant groan that vibrates up from the very bedrock of their world, a sound of pain from their god. Kalen scrambles to the edge, his knuckles white as he grips the lip of a massive, plate-minus-like osteoderm that serves as the village's natural retaining wall. He peers down, past the cascading waterfalls of the wanderer's sweat, past the haying gardens of ancient ferns clinging to its flat. 100 feet below, the canopy of the primeval forest is thrashing. But it is not the wanderer's leg causing the disturbance. Something else is down there, a nightmare-given flesh. A creature of impossible scale is latched onto the wanderer's colossal hind leg. A Carcharodontosaurus, its hide the color of dried blood and river mud, has its serrated teeth sunk deep into the flesh of their world. The great predator twists, ripping on tearing, and a fresh shockwave of agony ripples through the living island beneath Kaelen's feet. This is how their unique chapter of hominid history has been written. In a state of delicate symbiosis, the Sky-Minus clan, as they call themselves, are tenders. They are the small, clever hands that groom the mountainous flesh of the Argentinosaurus they call the Great Wanderer. They clear biting insects from its eyes with long poles, scrape parasitic fungi from between its toes with obsidian shards, and in return, they are carried high above the sweltering, predator-infested floor of the prehistoric world. They drink the clean water that pools in the valleys at its back and harvest the fruits from the trees whose seeds were dropped by pterosaurs long ago. Their existence is a miracle of balance, a quiet defiance in an age of titanic violence. But that balance now shatters. Elder Alara is already at the precipice, her face a mask of hardened wrinkles. She does not look at the monster below. She looks at the wound. A river of crimson, thick as tar, now flows down the wanderer's leg, staining the forest floor. The clan gathers around her, their fear a palpable scent on the air. These ancient humans possess no weapons for such a foe. Their primitive technology, scrapers of bone, spears for scouring the giant beetles that burrow into the wanderer's hide, needles carved from dinosaur teeth, is pitiful against the architect of this cataclysm. They are gardeners, not giant slayers. The god bleeds, a young woman whispers, her voice trembling. Elira places a hand on the vibrating ground. It feels our fear, she says, her voice low and steady. Do not give the hunter below that satisfaction. She looks at the faces of her people, their small community clinging to the back of a wounded titan. The age of peace is over. The tremors are no longer the rhythm of life, but the drumbeat of a coming war they are not equipped to fight. The age of dinosaurs has finally looked up and noticed them. Days bleed into our wake. The rhythm of their world is broken. The great wanderer's steps become labored, its pace slowing to a lethargic crawl. The vibrant ecosystem on its back, a testament to millennia of prehistoric life, begins to wither. The pools of fresh water grow cloudy and shallow. The cycads droop, their fronds turning a sickly yellow. The hunter is patient. The clan sees the Carcharodontosaurus shadowing them, a persistent fleck of monstrous ambition in the jungle below, waiting for the god to fall. Every few days, it strikes again, another tremor of agony, another torrent of blood. It is bleeding their world to death. The clan's survival skills, honed for a life of quiet symbiosis, are useless. They are watching their universe die. The council gathers in the hollow of a great, shed scoop, the air thick with despair. An elder named Moloch, his face etched with the clan's traditional passivity, voices the fear of old. We are its tenders, not its warriors. We must endure. We must soothe the god's skin. Cure the wounds as we always have. It is our place. Kalen steps forward, his hands stained with the Wanderer's drawing blood from a failed attempt to pack a wound with clay and moss. Its wounds are too deep, he says, his voice raw. Entrance is a slow death. Our place is about to be a grave on the forest floor. He points over the edge. Down the titanic curve of flesh. That is where the fight is. Not here, Monix scoffs. Descend. We are the sky minus cloud. We do not walk in the mud with the crawling things. To go down there is to be hunted. We are already being hunted. Kalen counters, his gaze sweeping over the grim faces. He strides to a pile of debris shed by the Wanderer. Splinters of bone from an old rib injury. The keratin no US husks of shed claws. Thick sheets of skin like cured leather. This is the boneyard of their host. The raw material for a new kind of thinking. Look at this. For generations, we saw this as the god's refuge. But it is a gift. This is an armory. The EFT has a jagged shard of rib. Its length taller than a man. Its point already needle minus sharp. Our primitive technology has been for scraping and digging. It is time for it to be for killing. This is a dangerous new step in their hominid history. A turn from passive existence to active aggression. The hard choice hangs in the air, heavier than the humid jungle atmosphere. To stay is certain doom. To descend is a desperate gamble against a creature from a nightmare. Elora, who has remained silent, finally rises. Her eyes, ancient and knowing, lock onto KIE lens. She sees not just a reckless youth, but the terrible, necessary spark of foresight. She sees the future of early humans is not in hiding, but in fighting. He is right, she declares, her voice cutting through the fear. Our symbiosis has changed. We can no longer just tend the god. We must now defend it. The decision galvanizes them. Despair gives way to a frantic, focused energy. The clan becomes a workshop of war. They use sharpened flint to shape the massive bone splinters into crude, heavy lances. They weave the Wanderer's sinewy vine minus growths into thick, sturdy ropes. Kalen directs the strongest to break apart a great, flat osteoderm, creating a wall of shields, each one heavy, thick, and smelling of the ancient earthen skin of their host. Days are spent practicing, learning how to brace the lances against the ground, how to work together as a single, bristling entity. They are no longer gardeners. They are becoming a phalanx. Finally, the day comes. Kalen stands at the precipice. A rope of woven fibers tied around his waist. He looks down at the ground, a world away. It is an act of supreme faith and terror. Abandoning the heaven they've always known, he takes a breath and steps off the edge, beginning the long, perilous descent into hell. The descent feels like a fall from grace. The air grows thick, wet, and heavy with the scent of decay and fear. The familiar, sun-minus-drenched landscape of the Wanderer's back is replaced by a vertical jungle of hanging vines and sweating, crease-tied, for the first time. Kalen and his 20 chosen hunters feel the true scale of their god, not as a world, but as a creature of flesh and blood. They are freeze on a dying behemoth. When their feet finally touch the soft, muddy earth, the shock is profound. The ground is unstable, treacherous. They have spent their lives on solid, moving ground. This stationary world feels alien. Run. The scale of the trees, the size of the insects. Everything is monstrous. This is the truth of their prehistory. A world not made for them. They find the monster's lair by following the trail of their god's blood. It is a clearing of flattened, broken trees, littered with the splintered bones of other colossal prey. The Carcharodontosaurus is there, resting, its massive head low, the rhythmic rise and fall of its gassed roller a terrifying engine of breath. It is larger than they could have imagined from above, a mountain of serrated teeth and muscle. Sear, cold and sharp, threatens to shatter their resolve. But then they see it. The deep, festering wounds on its flank, putrid and grain, signs of its own battles, its own mortality. It is not a demon. It is just flesh. KLN gives the signal. The plan is an insane piece of altruism. A desperate gambit of hominid intelligence against primal power. A small, fast team led by a young woman named Lyra breaks to the left, shaking rattles made from dried gourds filled with stones. The sound is small, pathetic in the vastness of the jungle, but it is alien enough to stir the predator. The great head lifts, a single, vast eye swiveling to fixate on the noise. That is the first victory. As the beast turns its attention, KLN's main force moves, a bristling creature of bone and courage. They plant the heavy bone minus lances deep into the mud, their points angled upward, forming a crude but lethal wall. Behind them, the shield minus bearers brace their heavy osteoderm plates. The Carcharodontosaurus lets out a roar that is less a sound and more a physical force, a wave of pressure that shakes the leaves from the trees. It charges. The earth trembles. It is not running. It is a landslide, a force of nature intent on annihilation. The hunters hold their ground, their knuckles white, their breath held tight in their chests. The monster sees the wall of bone spikes too late. With a shriek of fury and pain, it impales itself on the massive, sharpened ribs. One lance snaps, but 3 others drop deep into its chest and underbelly, puncturing its lung. The impact throws the hunters backward, but the wound holds. The beast thrashes, its immense tail scything through the air, shattering trees. One hunter is caught by a flailing claw and tossed aside. The broken dull, but the wound is mortal. A torrent of dark blood pours from the monster's chest. It stumbles, its colossal weight now its enemy. It tries to roar again, but only a wet, gurgling sound emerges, with a final, ground-minus shaking crash. The architect of their misery collapses. Silence descends, broken only by the ragged, desperate gasps of the hunters. They have done the impossible. They, the small, soft minus scurrying tenders from the sky, have slain a god minus killer. They have sacrificed one of their own. But they have saved their world, standing there, covered in mud and blood. They are no longer the sky minus clan. They are the guardians. Their relationship with the wanderer, their place in this brutal chapter of hominid history, has been rewritten not in pacts or prayers, but in the blood of their enemy and the courage of their own hearts. The hunters do not cheer. They stare at the mountain of dead flesh, at the cost of their victory laid bare in the still form of their fallen clan minus mate. KLN walks to the great wanderer and places his hand on its wounded leg. He feels a deep, slow tremor, not of pain, but of acknowledgement. Up above, on the high plains of its back, the clan watches, their silence a testament to the profound shift in their existence. They are no longer passengers. They are protectors. This single act of defiant, intelligent violence echoes far beyond this small clearing. It is a blueprint. It is the moment a species, born to hide in the shadows of giants, decides to carry a spear. Their desperate gamble against this Tyrannosaurus Rex, minus-sized carnivore, is a microcosm of the grand, audacious story of human evolution. The story of how a creature with no natural armor, no fangs, and no claws rose to challenge the masters of the prehistoric world, not with brute strength, but with a sharpened rock, a coordinated plan, and the radical belief that they did not have to accept their place at the bottom of the food chain. Their survival was not a guarantee. It was a choice, a declaration of war against an indifferent and brutal reality. We are the unlikely echo of a billion desperate gambles. What happens when the earth itself becomes the next great predator?